Beautiful friends, a very sad and a bit scary of a time that we have just stepped into over the past week, with predictions and prophecy coming into fruition quicker than ever before. So are we on the edge of the great war spoken about in prophecies? Is the attack, the horrific attack on Israel, prophecy coming into fruition once again? If you recall in the past, not long ago, I spoke about an attack that would be like Pearl Harbor or 9/11. And the horrific attack in Israel is now being referred to as Israel's 9/11. Could this actually lead in to my visions of big explosions within cities across the globe? What does the future hold exactly in accordance to the spirits for the Middle East and especially for Israel? And wait until you see all the clips that I put together for you of the information and predictions I made since January of this year for both Israel and the Middle East both. We're going to review some of those clips and talk very in depth about that today. So take a look at this clip first here, and we'll look at other clips in more depth later. But check out this clip just recently from September 12th show.
I also saw a series of missile strikes taking place somewhere over in the Middle East, but I'm not sure where. But for some reason, I see some type of missile strikes and attacks happening in the Middle East. And whatever it was, it felt surprising to me for some reason. It felt like a big surprise, likely because it's going to surprise all of us.
Sadly, in past predictions, I stated that there would be a massacre type of an event that reminded me sorta of what happened in Las Vegas, happening again around the music festival, especially an outside music festival. And sadly, part of these horrific attacks on Israel, hundreds of lives were claimed at a music festival, exactly as I saw in my past visions. But will there be future attacks on other music festivals, and even more so bars and nightclubs? Information you're going to want to hear about today. Check out this clip, because I warned that there would be a huge, massive earthquake in the month of October. That would be, actually, I said that there would be several earthquakes in the month of October, huge, that I compared to both Turkey and Morocco. And the most recent, again, was on September 12th when Spirit interrupted me and said the following.
I also see, major quake in Afghanistan, Spirit just yelled at me. Major quake in Afghanistan, major shaking in Afghanistan. I'm getting that right now.
Sadly, over 2,000 lives have been lost in the deadliest earthquake in decades that hit Afghanistan. Spirit says that there were several to come in the month of October. So today I'm going to reveal some other areas of concern and when the next big quake is going to come potentially. Definitely at least one more, but I'm thinking several more before this month comes to an end. So who's going to be vulnerable next? But also, there's actually no coincidence that the Bible talks about an attack on Israel with a great earthquake that follows in the prophecies in the book of Revelation. So are both of these events that occurred, the attack on Israel, the massive earthquake in Afghanistan, Bible prophecy once again coming into fruition? It sure in the heck sounds like it. I talked about new movements, large protests breaking out between September and especially October and November. And that's exactly what is happening globally right now. But what we have is opposing groups between Israel and Palestine forming here in the United States. And security at synagogues and mosques have been heightened here in the United States and other places. So will this lead to my past predictions of seeing religious structures being burnt to the ground, if you recall? We also have protests arising in Alabama. After police shot a man, Spirit warned us of coming protests and looting that would be revolved around a police incident. So could this incident in Alabama lead to these events that Spirit told us were coming here in the United States? Or is there more to come, which will stir up this bubbling pot even more until it boils over completely, boils over to looters and protesters on the streets of America? Remember, I just recently had visions in my channeled predictions of a surprise attack. I also spoke about a major aerial attack along with the most disturbing vision that I had in my channeled predictions of large explosions being set off in big cities. Now we have this surprise attack on Israel, making those predictions and my visions even more plausible now more than ever before. I also talked about a rise in groups like ISIS, the Taliban, and many others. That rise seems to be happening right before our eyes. Also, if you rewind to my last channel prediction video, I talked about my visions of myself standing in the center of a city, or off the edge of the center of the city actually, facing down a road towards the center of the city. I felt strongly that I was in New York City, facing towards Times Square. Well, no coincidence that over the weekend we had many arrests take place, once again, this time at Times Square, over the Free Palestine protesting movements that are gathering. So could these events be at all connected to those visions of Times Square and of the city? So today we're going to try to fit all these puzzle pieces together with more information to try to pinpoint exact times and locations and so much more. There is basically another type of war happening right now, at least here in the United States, that's going to spread globally. And it's a different type of war. It's not in the aspect of the type of fighting that we're thinking when we talk about conflict. This conflict would be breaking out amongst the Palestine protesters and the Israel protesters. Not just the protesters, but even more concerning is the radical groups that have already crossed over into our borders. And many other borders as well, not just United States. And newly formed groups that are going to come out of this entire mess. So what is next for the world? What else is going to happen in the near future? We're going to cover all that today and more information about my warning a few years ago to Egypt, if you recall. That was in my channel predictions as well. A tornado warning for the Midwest of United States. And continued storm and flood warnings remain for the month of October, of course. The insect infestation that I talked about, and it was even in the book by Mary Summerrain, Phoenix Rising. Now we see that insect infestation happening in Paris, France, with a major bed bug infestation. Is there a coincidence here, or did somebody drop those bed bugs off for a little while? I'm thinking somebody dropped those bed bugs off for a little while. So, huge arrests around traffickers. Really interesting, including the arrest of another Disney employee. All this today and much more on episode number 86 of Tuesday's Tittle Tea Time. It's tea time, baby. Welcome, beautiful friends. I hope that you are all having an amazing day so far. If you're new, I welcome you to my channel. I welcome the rest of my tribe back to the channel. If you're new here again, my name is Joseph Tittel, aka Spiritman JT. And if you want accurate predictions, truth, prophecy, you found the perfect tribe, baby. Smash that subscribe. Thank you for clicking the like button because that does help the algorithms to get this information to other people. Down below, you will find all the links to my social media, including my free newsletter. Be sure to open that up so that you can make sure that you know what's going on, because you just never know what's going to happen on the internet these days. You can always find me through my newsletter and all my social media links down below as well. And I just want to thank all of my supporters who make this free content possible for everybody else. I couldn't do it without you. Whether you're a member of the community down below, whether you're just a subscriber and part of our tribe, I appreciate you. And my friends on the Awaken Your Spirit Subscribe Star support platform as well. And those who send in contributions through the links down below in PayPal, Venmo, and so forth. I couldn't do this without you, and I am forever grateful. With infinite love and gratitude. So shall we move on with episode number 86 of Tea Time, baby? Yeah. Nothing like some herbal tea with some delicious honey. So in my October predictions, I did warn that October would be the most intense month of 2023 thus far. And we're only a couple days into the second week of October. So there's a lot more that can happen and will happen in October, and a lot of time yet to tick in the month of October. Things are only going to intensify as the year progresses, especially December, where we step into another Mercury retrograde and another energy shift. which is a dear promise that the year is going to go out with a bang. We are just days away from our first of 2 eclipses occurring in the month of October. One on the new moon on the 14th of October, and another on the full moon the 28th of October. Today is October 10th, 2023. I'm not sure when you're watching it, but right now while I'm recording it, it is 11:03 a.m. Pacific time in Sedona, Arizona. So these 2 eclipses that are coming in, the one on the 14th is even more rare in the aspect that it's going to reveal the Ring of Fire. It is a Ring of Fire eclipse. That is very symbolic, as I told you over the past few weeks, of the coming Ring of Fire activity at the Pacific Ring of Fire, where all the volcanoes and all the earthquake activity occurs. And we already see, before the eclipse even happened, a massive earthquake, taking thousands of lives. So what more is there to come? I warned how symbolic this would all be. We have not even reached that first eclipse. So if this is even slightly a warning for what is to come, then we all better start praying way more than we already do. The most intense of October's energy with the wrath of Mother Earth will occur soon after we pass that first eclipse this weekend. And then as we close in on the second eclipse on the 28th, it's going to intensify even more. That's when I would say the 2 most prominent times for the next big earthquakes would be the 14th, right at that new moon eclipse, the same day as the eclipse, but even more so the 28th and the 29th of October. I'm going to go with the 29th, even though the eclipse is on the 28th. 29th of October, be alert for a huge, massive earthquake and a huge, massive event to take place. Not only that, in my predictions for October, I mentioned the date, the 29th, as I often do because it is an 11-day in numerology. And big, unfortunate, tragic events occur on 11 days. So a date to keep an eye out for would even be tomorrow, the 11th, which I would believe without a doubt where we're going to see major retaliation coming in from Israel to the Palestine and to the Gaza Strip. Even more so over the weekend when we approach that new moon eclipse and that Ring of Fire. Again, very symbolic times that we are in for sure, friends. Very, very much. So a few days before that first eclipse, and just a few days from now, on October 12th, we have the planet Mars going into Scorpio. Mars being known as the planet of war and destruction. This is a time where you can expect your emotions to be riding high. So remember, again, on the 12th, the whole Mars in Scorpio is going to heighten emotions on major levels, especially if you're a Scorpio. Or even if you have Scorpio in your chart as an ascendant or even the rising, you could have a very strong effect on you. But it will affect everybody. Therefore, on a worldview level, we're going to see people, even leaders who are supposed to be a good example to others, acting out in anger. This, once again, is going to ignite yet another conflict. 2 more conflicts, according to what Spirit just said. 2 more conflicts. Sadly, I feel that United States is probably going to be involved in them. At least one of them. Hopefully it's not United States itself. I remind you that the solar eclipse is in Libra on October 14th, and that is also a very powerful time. More than importantly, it is a very powerful time to set your intentions, especially intentions for cultivating fairness, cooperation, diplomacy in our relationships and in our partnerships. It could be a great time for countries to, again, bring together cooperation and everything I just said, diplomacy. This includes our personal partnerships and relationships, but it includes world relationships as well. It's going to have a major effect on world relationships, hopefully for the better, and we can hold that in the light. But the Libra is all about bringing equilibrium within ourselves and within our relationships. So write down your intentions. It's powerful. Work really hard and you will benefit and reap the benefits of your hard work. That Libra influence with this eclipse coming up is all about balance and bringing equilibrium both to ourselves and to our relationships. Again, on a personal level and on a global level. With all the craziness breaking out globally, there is no better time and more important time than now for us to find balance within, again, ourselves and within our relationships. So take advantage of this cycle, my friends, and begin to hold very clear intentions and visions of your future and the future of our planet. That's important as well. Only together can we make that change. You know it, I know it. Only together can we make that change. And we can shift things to a more positive direction that benefits all of humanity. And we can start simply by holding intentions for a peaceful, joyful life for ourselves and for planet Earth. But you have to stay focused. You have to keep that intention every day, that vision every day. Another reminder, too, is that 2023 is a 7 universal year. And that 7 vibration is not only about ascension and shifts in consciousness, but it rules over our belief system. It rules over religious structures and spirituality. So, of course, we're going to have events like we saw with UFOs and aliens as a way to shift our beliefs, but more so religious persecution and religious conflicts, as we are seeing breaking out right now in the Middle East. So, speaking of the Middle East, our main subject and topic today, of course, is going to be Israel and the horrific attack that had taken place in Israel and what's panning out in the Middle East and what's going to come in the near future in the Middle East as well. I spoke and I speak quite often about Israel and predictions and prophecy because, as we know, most of the prophecy from the Holy Bible is all based in the Middle East and Israel. So in my annual New Year's Day predictions that I do every year for decades now, in prediction number 45 of those predictions, because I dug this up for you today to show you this. Well, not show you, but read it to you. And it's prediction number 45, put out January 1st in my New Year's Day world predictions. I had visions of Israel, warplanes taking off and feeling of fear and panic, which I can only imagine receiving those feelings with this vision is a sign that some type of an attack and threat is coming to Israel. Something that causes panic and throws the Israeli military into full alert. Israel will endure many issues with unrest like most of the globe in 2023. Interesting, right? I have a lot more that I said throughout the year. We'll review that in a few minutes. But the Holy Bible talks about an attack on Israel from the north, from a leader from the north. In Ezekiel, it speaks of Gog and Magog, while also stating that a great earthquake would follow the drying up of the Euphrates River. Now, I did a video on that last year about the Euphrates River. I forget what the title of the video was. And about the demons and the tunnels underneath, and really interesting video. I'll try to remember and put a link up above so that you have it. The Euphrates dried up last year to record lows, and then a great earthquake hit Turkey. Many earthquakes actually hit Turkey, and actually completely leveling the city and claiming more than 50,000 lives. Now, not far from Turkey, and still in the Middle East, we have yet another great quake, killing thousands at the same time that Israel's being invaded. Any coincidences there? I doubt it. If you previously ever had any doubts that we are in apocalyptic times spoken about in prophecy, I would think that recent events should have you doubting no longer. Even though the Bible does state that the attack on Gog and Magog, or from Gog and Magog from the north, many believe that Magog is actually Russia. Many talk about it being Russia, while we know Gog is Iran because Persia and Iran all the same place. So one of the two anyway. I don't necessarily agree that Magog or one of the two is Russia, because if we look directly north of Israel, we have Lebanon, we have Cyprus, we have Turkey. Just saying. I would think it'd be more than them. Although, with recent concerns, one recent concern that really points to Russia more than ever is the recent billion-dollar deals that they just made between Russia and Iran. A deal that Russia never ever struck with Iran in a 2,500-year history. So that makes right there for a very strong argument that Magog is actually Russia. So who is now supplying Iran, by the way, Russia, supplying them with missiles and other combat tools, while Iran is supplying Russia with oil, drones, and a load of other goods. Therefore, now I have really no doubt that Russia will at least play some type of role in future attacks coming from Iran. Not necessarily directly, but indirectly for sure, by supplying them with the means to do so, to pull off attacks and terror on their neighbors. Sad, but true. They brag in Israel. This is what I find really interesting, friends, because they brag in Israel that their security at their borders is so advanced that they could detect a cockroach coming across their border. So why did they not detect this, friends? Why was this so undetected? And not only that, why did it seem that the reaction from the Israeli military was not done in a timely manner? Some say it took hours for the military to get to certain areas of Israel. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's what the talk's all about. And Egypt is now making claims that Israel knew an attack was coming because Egypt claims that they warned them and told them that they needed to prepare for it, and they didn't heed the warning. And Egypt claims that they spoke to Israel about this and warned them months in advance. So I know some of you said it in the comments, and I'll say it too. Something very shady is going on here. And wait until you hear the clips that I play for you from past predictions, because it kind of puts things together in a kind of creepy way. So in my recent channel predictions, there was a huge warning that I said, several actually, for Egypt. You know, at the time when I said this a week ago, before all this broke out, you know, it sounded possible, but now it sounds extremely plausible that something big is happening in Egypt. All my focus was mainly on Cairo. I felt a great shaking coming to Cairo, Egypt, and the surrounding areas. No, and see the surrounding areas definitely shaking, but I also felt that this would be related to a large earthquake hitting Cairo, Egypt, and surrounding areas. The other shaking that I was getting was a political infrastructure shaking, and a beginning of a collapse happening in Egypt and around Egypt, including major protests breaking out in Egypt as well. And now this vision and prediction again looks more plausible than ever. And I said that just over a week ago. And now Egypt, United States asked Egypt for aid, and Egypt said, we don't want nothing to do with you. We're staying neutral. That's basically saying no to what United States thought was an ally. You really think they're going to take your side? I warned about these armies that are forming in all those countries. People from all those countries forming into an army. Now we know that army exists. You can call it what you want. Call it Hamas. You can call it ISIS. You can call it the Taliban. But it's all the same. It's kind of like right wing, left wing, same bird, right? Same difference. So really, really interesting, because one thing is for sure. Like several of you said in the comments, again, something very shady is going on here. And when we look back at some of my past predictions, again, I spoke about Israel in the Middle East, and I also spoke about shady events happening. And now we're feeling that something shady happened. You know, we know what happened, but we feel that there's something shady about it. So this just gives us more questions. But let us look at these little pieces in a moment of what I said so that we can put this puzzle together. Some, actually most, are tossing the blame towards the Biden administration for freeing up that $6 billion. When in actuality, if you trace the money, like they say, follow the money, baby. That money goes back to the Obama administration, actually, that put those funds in the hands of these awful people. Now the United States is making a claim, as you heard, that that money has not been touched at all, and that it can't be used for anything but medications and important supplies, which could be true. But do they really think that we're that less than smart? Anyone with 1/10 of a brain knows that they can just turn around and sell those goods and make the money on the side without you even touching that money, because they know the money's there. Like, hello? But I wouldn't believe anything the United States says anyway, especially now. Our administration's done nothing but lie, continue to lie. And they all do. Doesn't matter. They all do. So you got to go with your intuition, friends. You got to tap in deep and see what you feel. If you feel something shady's happening, then something shady's definitely happening. As I tell my students all the time. The United States is claiming that they can only purchase, those things with that money, and that money hasn't been touched so far. But again, no coincidence that this all just happened a month later. You know what I found really interesting, people don't realize, or maybe you do. They talk about it being the 9/11 event for Israel, right? Do you know what day those funds were released? The whole hostage thing and the funds were released to Iran? 9/11, of course. No coincidence there. There's never coincidences, friends. No such thing as coincidences. Now, I warned Israel many times, and Spirit has warned us that there were going to be threats posed to the entire world by Iran and radical groups. And we're now being warned about these 3 flags. Remember, Spirit warned us that there'd be 3 flags that would fly ever so falsely. So is this one of those flags? Remember earlier this year, Netanyahu threatened, I talked about it on Tuesday's show, back I think in April. Netanyahu threatened to send Lebanon back to the Stone Age. Remember that? I read the article to you. And I can assure you that he's going to do exactly that now, unfortunately. Unfortunate because all the sad people that are getting thrown into the mix. While those poor people in the Gaza Strip are surrounded and can't get out. It's just the whole situation on both sides is absolutely horrifically sad. And just, there needs to be peace, not war. Just peace. All we are saying is give peace a chance. That's all we're saying, friends. That's all we're saying. I should have worn my peace shirt today. I forgot that. Anyway, moving on. So remember, he did say that, though. And Netanyahu did threaten that he would send them back to the Stone Age. And although this threat was earlier in the year, Israel was already loaded with issues of their own, while sending many threats to other surrounding countries throughout the year already as well. This makes things, in my opinion, all the more shadier. Just in my opinion. Speaking of threats, we also have to remind to the threats Iran made, mainly to the United States, claiming that they would take out Americans in revenge for the assassination of that evil leader over there back when Trump was president, I believe that was. They even put this threat, if you recall, in writing and posted this threat right on Twitter for the whole world to see. And not long before the president of the United States was removed from Twitter, but that threat from Iran to bring revenge upon America still sat on Twitter for everybody to see. Something wrong with this picture, friends. Something wrong. I think that since Musk took over Twitter, I think maybe they got rid of him. The Irani Ayatollah. I think it was his page. I'm pretty sure it was his page. But I don't know if it's still there. Be interesting to know. I should have went and looked, but I forgot. So with the United States and the current administration, and with their, not just the United States, but others, with their extremely less than smart open border policies, has allowed the bad guys to cross into the United States, as I've been telling you for a while, and not just me. I mean, many have been talking about it. And not, again, just the United States, other countries as well, including France, Germany, Canada, and a few others. Spirit warned us about this time and time again, and especially over the past few months. Now, Israel states that they're going to cut power, food, and water from the people in Gaza. Innocent people do reside there, by the way, just as innocent people suffered on October 7th. So it's just, again, doesn't mean just because they did that to your people, which is awful, horrific, doesn't mean that their innocent people need to suffer too. It's got to be a better way of doing this. Peace is what I say. That's the best way to do it. But of course, according to prophecy, that's not going to happen anytime soon until the Antichrist comes and gets them to sign that 7-year peace treaty. That's in the prophecies. In the third temple, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. So, many people are calling it crimes of war. What's about to happen, what's happening. And I just think war is a crime in general. Altogether. There should be no war. It's awful what humans do. But before I move on, let me just show you this stream of clips that I put together from past predictions. Starting with this clip from April 4th of 2023.
A wave of terror-related attacks, according to Spirit. And I feel this will be some kind of an inside job, and it will be used against their own people. I don't know what that all means, but that was my feelings today. Tensions with Iran are going to flare up to a very dangerous level, and the United States interfering would bring about the Great War. So let's hold that in the light that doesn't happen. Remember, we can shift and change things by holding things in the light. Israel with Iran are going to flare up to a very dangerous level again, as I said. But I see also some type of tensions and potential war coming from Turkey. That popped up.
Some type of inside job? This was again from April 4th's predictions. April 4th, correct. I said even more on April 18th. And I think the April 4th was my April predictions, actually. And then again on April 18th, I'll show you that clip in a minute. But Turkey, we talked about Turkey. I warned about Turkey. Spirit told us a long time ago that that's where they were building their part of their evil army that was going to come across the deserts and attack Israel in the future. Well, look what happened. And maybe they know about that. You know, somebody knows about that because look at the quake that shook Turkey. Remember, Spirit told us to pay attention to where these massive weather events take place, mainly earthquakes, because Spirit would shake areas where the darkness hides and resides. There you go. Turkey, Afghanistan, Morocco. Interesting, right? So check out this clip from the 18th of April, 2023.
As much as it was the feeling that people are packing up and getting out of there. And they're beginning to exit due to failed leadership. And Spirit said, in due time, this is where the vision came in, we will see people fleeing Israel on a much larger scale. That's where I kind of related to the vision I had of people fleeing North Korea, but in a different way, of course. As people awaken to the evil and the communist leaderships that are going on globally, people are going to start fleeing areas. Israel, according to Spirit, is planning to bring pain amongst both the Iranian and the Palestinian people. It's something different. It's something different and kind of like a sinister plan. Not clear what exactly that means or exactly what this sinister plan being devised consists of. But Spirit says Israel should be seeking peace with both countries instead of promoting hatred and destruction on innocent human beings, which will lead Israel into a triple war with Iran and countries like Turkey joining in with Iran and one other. So that goes back to prophecies, friends.
And Spirit says this is going to lead Israel into a triple war if they don't seek peace instead of conflict. Well, we see that they're not seeking peace. Nobody seems to be seeking peace in these world conflicts. So, triple war? So who are the other ones? We know Iran, because I can guarantee you right now a major attack is coming to the people of Iran. And I wouldn't doubt they use the earthquake machine to shake up Iran first, then go in and attack afterwards. United States, if you remember going back, I had visions of ships along a coastline firing missiles into the coast, into the land, inland. Now we know the United States just moved their Navy ships, big warrior ships, across the sea to Israel. I guarantee you that they will be using that ship. And really, we got to hold in the light that doesn't happen, because that's when Russia and China will get involved. And I will also tell you that China, as I've been warning you all year, they will invade Taiwan, and this is almost the perfect time for them to do so. Especially with all the influences astrologically coming in this month and the angry energy that happens towards the end of the month. No doubt, you don't want to anger anybody right now, especially another country that possesses hundreds of nukes. Not a good idea. So this next clip comes from my May predictions for 2023. May 1st, 2023. Check this out.
Plugged into the energy of Israel. And I got the same for Iran. A different kind of sketchy, but really sketchy energies. Like when I get a sketchy energy, somebody's demising a plan. Somebody's just demising something. That's how I would take it. And again, I'll hopefully get more information and details. Something really sketchy is happening, though. And I'm not clear what it is, but it doesn't really feel good to me either. It doesn't feel good, and it feels actually kind of like going against the Israel people, their own actual leaders, their own government going against them when it came to Israel. Spirit says that's already happening in Iran, Israel, something they're planning that really goes against the desires of the people.
So that clip was from May 1st predictions for the month of May, and here is June predictions. Exactly a month later, this is what I said.
I see several large explosions in the Middle East. I'm not clear where exactly or the who, what, or why, but I do see that these are intended actions to bring harm to others. So, Middle East, three big. I'm pretty sure there's so much more going on behind the walls of Israel. Of course there is. And I literally felt like I was like in Israel and the walls of Israel were bursting, like about to burst at the seams. So eventually, whatever it is that made me feel that it's going to burst, eventually it's going to burst. And this is going to bring about a load of issues for Israel and two other targets is what I felt with Spirit today. I don't know what the other two targets could be. I can only guess that one's Iran and the other is Palestine. But I could be totally wrong, and this could be related somehow to issues related to Saudi Arabia. Or it could be all three, but two big issues, two big targets is what Spirit said. And they are going to have their conflict with Saudi Arabia.
It's interesting that I said in June that this would involve Saudi Arabia in some way or another. And many people are saying that the agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia is what caused Hamas to pose this attack. I beg to differ and believe that they were planning this attack a long time because I felt it back in April and earlier this year. Definitely planning it. Now, seeing and feeling Israel bursting at its seams, some would say that that just happened and that prediction came into fruition. But Spirit keeps showing me those walls bursting at their seams still. So there's more to come. Hopefully not a bigger attack on Israel, but likely that's going to be the case, friends. And I didn't think any of this was going to break out in Israel till late 2024 and 2025. So part of me feels like this is being pushed. This is being rushed. Like the globalists are pushing faster because we're on to them. That's probably the truth, too. I have a few more clips to show you, and this clip is from August 7th. Give a listen.
Funds to help grow this army of darkness. Remember, just last week, I was telling you that there would be a return of evil being caused by groups like ISIS or other radicals such as them. And now a week later, after telling you that, we can clearly see why Spirit sent us that warning last week. Makes total sense now, don't it? Makes total sense. So I feel something huge is going to erupt in the near future in the Middle Eastern countries, especially when it comes to Iran, and of course problems for Israel is where it's going to lead.
So on August 7th, you heard it, I said that there would be a big eruption between Iran and Israel. That's definitely happening as we speak. And it all was connected to the discussion of releasing that $6 billion to Iran. So even before that, again, you heard me warn about that area of the Middle East, but those funds would have everything to do with the future attacks. I said it before the funds were released, and we knew it once we all heard about those funds and given the evildoers $6 billion to commit evil. We all knew where that was going to lead. You didn't even need to be psychic to figure that one out. So check out these other clips I have here for you, and these are all recent clips that just came from September 12th episode of Tea Time.
Check it out. I also saw a series of missile strikes taking place somewhere over in the Middle East, but I'm not sure where. But for some reason, I see some type of missile strikes and attacks happening in the Middle East. And whatever it was, it felt surprising to me for some reason. It felt like a big surprise, likely because it's going to surprise all of us. IS, baby, for example, which we don't really hear much about anymore. But Spirit warns me that they're actually there and they've been growing into a huge army. And I saw a vision of their black and white flags waving, and I hear them cheering and waving arsenal in the air. So this was a vision I had, and they were all like gathered together with their little, what are they, Toyota's trucks with them. And I had this vision, they're waving their flags and waving their arsenal. I don't know what to make of this exactly, but waving it like that makes me feel like obviously that they were celebrating something. I don't know what they could be celebrating, but I'm sure it's not something we would be celebrating. So something is coming from these radicals. Spirit gave me a strong feeling that this is going to be a major global threat. The Taliban also came to mind. Taliban, which this is a little, I thought it was a bit surprising to me actually, because you just don't really hear about it, but I just listen to what my spirits tell me and want me to share with you. And I feel some kind of threat, some kind of major event involving the Taliban, potentially the Taliban, along with the other radicals, and some type of takeover and other major threat.
Interesting that I said the Taliban. We don't really hear much about the Taliban or ISIS, but over the past month and a half, I've been getting a lot of information and concerns about all these radical groups. And now we see that we need to be even more concerned about these radical groups more than ever. I saw visions, as you may recall, in my channel predictions, but I had it earlier in other past shows as well in predictions of these large explosions taking place all over the world, a global event, as Spirit said. And it felt to me to be something kind of dirty, that type of an explosion, if you know what I mean. Remember, Spirit also warned us about all the people crossing over to the borders, not just in the United States, but in France, Germany, Canada, and many other places that are all vulnerable, especially anywhere where Christians reside, because that's what it really is all about. That's what they want, these radicals. They want to destroy Christianity and the whole existence of Jesus Christ. It's in the prophecies as well. This is all part of the globalists' agenda of kicking in a new world global religion. People won't argue or fight if there's just one religion. And that's their concept. That's what they're going to try to sell when the Antichrist rises. Now, back in February, on February 2nd, I said the following. I had a vision of ships and out at sea, and I saw them launching missiles, and then I saw a vision of a ship going down. I also see an attack from the sea onto the coastline. So I saw ships in this vision going back to February, shooting from the ocean out towards land. Something will be launched also by submarines. Now, this is again a prediction going back to February 2nd. With all the conflict escalating between Russia and Ukraine, along with what's happening in Israel and the Middle East right now. Sorry, you're going to hear sirens in the background because of this awesome microphone. Yeah, it throws me off, that loud siren. Anyway, going back to February 2nd of this year and that prediction. Now it makes sense because we know the United States just sent one of its big fleets out towards Israel to back up, protect them. So I'm going to say that that's likely the case here. But also I saw frictions igniting and conflict in the Black Sea. But I also saw this up towards the China Sea as well. And I can assure you that right now, China is making their plan to attack Taiwan. If you go back to my other predictions, remember my channeled predictions, I had a vision. I think it was my first channeled prediction video I did. So that would have been like early August, where I'm in meditation, describing everything that I see. And in that meditation, I saw Spirit told us that it was going to be the morning hours of the night before sunrise. That I saw these people coming in on the coast, invading a territory, a land. So this all comes back to mind again. Now that would make sense to an invasion of China and Taiwan into Taiwan, but it could make sense to many other different invasions as well. Because I've been warning, and all of the people that I know in the United States have been feeling this concern that something big is going to happen within our country. And yes, there's going to be many things, unfortunately, but also fortunately at the same time with political upheaval, people getting sick and tired of the lies and everything that's happening. It's just one lie after another. So we'll have that change and shift happening in government, again with JB leaving. But we're seeing this again as a global scale. Big things are happening with all the astrological alignments, and more so these two eclipses that are coming up. One in just a few days, the Ring of Fire. Going back, and let me actually touch base on another past prediction. I had predictions of airports, if you remember, and even airplanes being hit in the skies. This brings all those predictions back to mind again. And that's exactly what we're going to see happen with these extremists. Do we call them radicals, extremists, whatever they are, over there in the Middle East? We're going to start seeing them target planes and airports. So, okay, Spirit says, and then there's an invasion coming to Iran, as we could already guess, which I believe that United States and Israel together combined are planning. Let's hope that doesn't come into fruition, because that's when Russia and China will end up coming into the picture. And then this will become a world global conflict. But we're already seeing world conflict. It's just not every nation against every nation, as the Holy Bible speaks about. So it's interesting. So I would say the airport things I'm getting is more over in Europe and the Middle East. So I wouldn't worry outside of that. And I wouldn't worry anyway. Worrying is just going to manifest the things you don't want to manifest. Stay focused on the positive. Now, Egypt, it's another one I want to touch base on again. Egypt, it's quite fascinating that I just talked about Egypt in my channeled predictions. A big warning to Cairo, Egypt. This was just over a week ago that I did that meditation. I forget what day I did that meditation. October, I forget, the 3rd, I think I might have done it. But anyway, aside from that, Cairo got a big warning. And I saw multiple things for Cairo. A massive earthquake, along with issues with their political upheaval and protests as well. Now, with everything happening in Israel, we can see this very clearly coming into fruition easily that happening, especially being that Biden just asked Egypt for assistance and he got basically a huge no. We're not getting involved. This would make so much more sense for those predictions. Remember, they could use their little earthquake machine and hit Cairo just like some people believe they allegedly is the way they hit Turkey. Because there were disagreements with Turkey, with other surrounding countries, that Turkey didn't want to sign the agreement, and then all of a sudden that earthquake hit. Kind of interesting. But I got to also go back and remind you, Spirit just told me to remind you of Mother Nature would hit places where evil hides and resides. I warned about Turkey for years now, that big evil Antichrist army or army of darkness or whatever you want to refer to them as, that's been forming for years now, probably at least a decade. They're all coming together. The Taliban, Hamas, ISIS, all of them are coming together, one group. I wouldn't doubt that they change the name and make a new name for it as well. That just actually popped in my brain, so I would expect, that will probably happen. And you saw my past predictions of seeing them, celebrating with their arms up in the air, driving their Toyotas and wearing all their military equipment that looks very much like it all came from America. Wouldn't you say? That's another thing that comes into question right now with the weapons that were fired from Hamas into Israel. There's people demanding the serial numbers. Now, a friend of mine texted me earlier and said that they came from there, but I haven't seen the evidence yet, so I don't know. As far as showing you evidence that, those weapons were actually originally meant for the UKR, but never ended up there. Remember, we talked about the weapons being intercepted in Africa. I talked about that during the early summer months. We were getting information by Spirit that those weapons were being intercepted and that money wasn't being used where it was supposed to be used. And I think that the administrations that are sending that money are quite aware of where that money's going. They're quite aware of everything. Don't let them fool you. Don't let Israel fool you that they weren't aware of this, that this was a military protection, big oops. Oh, it was an oops, all right. Remember, you can detect a cockroach coming across the border, but it took you a long time to act. And again, I just go by all the last predictions that I had that I just played for you and how these puzzle pieces kind of go together pretty clearly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. But again, some of you in the comments said, my visions of these big explosions happening is all Israel. But no, it's not, because that vision, that meditation showed me simultaneously going off in different cities across the globe. So we have to hold in the light that doesn't happen. Now, Spirit's showing me right now a big subway incident, a big subway thing. Now, I saw this for New York earlier this year. I saw smoke coming out of a subway in New York and people rushing out. I just remembered that about New York. Not that this is New York of what I'm getting now, but I see some type of an explosion happening in a subway system underground. But I'm not sure where exactly this is. Now, for some reason, China comes to mind, but I don't think it would happen in China. Maybe China somehow is responsible for it. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. But that's information I just got now of seeing a vision of a subway system blowing up underground. I would have to say it has to be somewhere in Europe, but Spirit's not giving me the information where that is. But the only thing that it reminds me of is my past prediction that I saw about New York City. And I saw a lot of things for New York City. So remember, I also saw for New York City visions of armed military guarding with checkpoints all around New York City. So are they going to pull the same thing and something happens here and our military is going to be like, oh, how do we not know? Just like we didn't know what was going to happen in 2001. Come on now, friends. People are awakening. That's another good aspect about this whole thing with the eclipses. It's bringing the dark into the light, right? Dragging that darkness right into the light so that we can shine brightly on truth and justice. But we have to step up, and that's the next step where we go into protests and all kinds of craziness. I predicted and told you that there would be major protests coming up in the fall months along with strikes, and we're seeing that happen. One after another, actually. I have some notes here. I didn't put all my notes together. I didn't have a chance. I was too busy searching for the clips. So here's one with the healthcare strike. I don't know if this happened or not. Over 75,000 workers strike against Kaiser Permanente in the largest healthcare protest in U.S. history. When was this from? This was from a couple days ago, actually, the 5th. More than 75,000 workers employed at the Kaiser Permanente hospital systems went on strike Wednesday. That was last Wednesday, a week ago. Not even a week, almost a week ago. Citing wage and staffing issues. So that's going to put a big dent in the whole medical system right there with that. We have the protests breaking out in New York. Now, a week ago, we had protests against the immigrants in New York that led to arrests. And then now, just this past couple days, we had major protests this weekend in New York Times Square with the two groups, the Palestinians and the Israelis in their protests there. I think there were some arrests that were made there as well. It's just only going to get dirtier and creepier, friends. This also takes me back to my prediction around churches and a war against religion. Remember, again, we are in that 7 vibrational year this year. That 7 vibration is all about spiritual ascension. It's all about digging deep and shifting our beliefs and our belief system. Remember, the globalist elite know that. It's why they posed all this UFO stuff and shifted all this in our faces this year. It's probably also why they picked this year to attack Israel. It's an attack on religious structures. That's what the 7 vibration's all about. We haven't seen much of the prediction where I said churches being burnt and attacks at churches and such. But now we could see that being very plausible. And, to me, I say church, synagogue, mosque, to me, places of worship. There we go. That's the better word. Places of worship. And we're going to see that, including, armed men going into some of these institutions, causing havoc. So the more we know that this is plausible now, and we do, because security's been heightened at mosques and synagogues. It should be heightened everywhere, churches and all. They should all have cameras. So if you are part of your church and your place of worship, make sure they have cameras and things and, extra security everywhere. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. This is those radicals in the Middle East posing a great war upon all of humanity that is not in the same belief system as them. That's what it's all about. That's what the prophecy all speaks about, at least the prophecy in the Bible especially. I saw visions of war in Africa, breaking out, conflict in Africa, and we see a lot of Africa. Africa is a large continent, so there could be war everywhere, and I didn't get a chance to do any map scrying or anything like that. But I see Africa being a very large battleground in the future. Could be actually technically where the Armageddon war is actually fought. Conflict is actually fought. But that vision came to me. Let's see, what else do I got here in my notes for you all? So the churches, I just talked about the churches in the 7 year that we're in, all based on religion. Do not also, speaking of that 7 vibration, about the prophecy of the third temple in Israel being built. But really, the temple mound's there and they can't build there and all, the whole story about that without me going into it. If not, then dabble into that story. It's quite interesting. And the prophecy of the third temple being built right at the time of the apocalyptic times. Well, I feel like that temple that's all about to come into fruition. Do not be surprised at all to see Israel wipe out one of those temples, one of those mosques or temples or the Temple Mount or whatever it is in that area of Jerusalem and Israel, as a counterattack towards the radicals. Also with the intention of course, building the third temple in that spot. That third temple and the plans have already been drawn up, Spirit says. They already know where they want to put it. So therefore, I would say that they're planning on rebuilding and erecting this temple in the prophecy next year, for sure. Now, I thought all this great craziness with Israel and all wouldn't happen until late 2024, 2025. But now it feels timing is the hardest thing with predictions, by the way. It's the most challenging part of predictions is the timing. It seems to me that was the timing, and it feels to me like they're pushing it. They're pushing it quicker. Because also in recent channeled predictions, Spirit told us that they're pushing out the Antichrist in 2025. They'll be surprised if they do that sooner now. It's interesting. It just feels like a push, like they're pushing everything quicker and sooner. We have to push back with the love and light from our hearts. So let me show you this. Speaking of massive earthquakes and weather systems, we're only in the beginning of October, and there's so much more to come, especially between the two eclipses, the 14th to the 28th. Those two time periods are so very, very important for everything. Weather, earth events, world events, humanity, all of the above. We have to keep our eyes closely on what's happening this month. It makes so much sense, too, that it's all happening this month. What's not happening is the dent on the economy. Because we are in that 8 vibrational month, which is all about money and economic. It's also a reflection of what we're going to experience next year. Because we're in the 8 vibration now, and next year, universally, the whole planet's in an 8 vibration. So if we are already seeing in early October that 8 vibration conflicts breaking out, imagine what 2024 is going to be like. We have to, again, stay focused on the light as much as possible. So great events, like massive earthquakes, like the one that just happened in Afghanistan, which I was in the middle of doing a show on September 12th when Spirit totally interrupted me, which is fine. You can interrupt me anytime, Spirits, anytime, to say this to me, and I'll play it for you again right here.
I also see, major quake in Afghanistan, Spirit just yelled at me. Major quake in Afghanistan, major shaking in Afghanistan. I'm getting that right now. Oh, major quake in Afghanistan. Well, being Spirit just yelled at, and not only just a quake, a shaking. So again, in predictions, even in prophecy, sometimes they might sound like the same, but they could be completely different. An earthquake could be an event that shakes up a country, right? Not necessarily an actual physical earthquake. No, it's an earthquake, said Spirit. Nope, they're getting an
Very
earthquake.
sad, and prayers go out to all those who have been affected, both in Israel, Afghanistan from the earthquake, and globally. Think about it this year. We have had more massive die-offs of people than I can ever remember. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't really focus on die-offs of people. But remember, I said this in my predictions going back to 2020, 2021, where Spirit told us in the future, expect there to be large die-offs of people. We're seeing it. I mean, look, we had 50,000 plus in Turkey. We had thousands in Morocco, thousands in Libya, and the list just goes on and on. Probably over 1,000 in Hawaii, and then everything with what's happening in the conflict in Europe. It's horrific. So Spirit was right. There is a lot of people exiting, just like Spirit told us. And as far as earthquakes are concerned, there are way more to come, as you could know and expect to know. But especially in this month of October in which we're in. Alaska just popped in my mind for not just a large quake outside of Anchorage, but also the igniting of the Pacific Rim up there in Alaska, right around that bend where all the volcanoes are. Spirit takes me there. I would warn the east coast of China, or not China. Well, China just came out of my mouth, but I was thinking Japan, actually. The east coast of Japan for a large quake and potential for a smaller tsunami. Smaller. Is there such a thing as a small tsunami? Not even sure of that. And remember, if you go back to my past predictions and my vision of a massive quake in the Pacific Ocean, unleashing a ripple effect of waves in all directions, being closer to places like Indonesia, but also the upper part of the Pacific, I'm kind of, or not even Pacific, well, I'm up near Ireland, and all those little cute little islands up there in Scotland. I feel like they're going to experience some quake activity and potential of even a tsunami up in that area, hitting the coast of, say, Ireland, for example. Excuse me. So, I'm waiting for Spirit to intervene here with some more information. I've been warning India for a while, and then also Mexico City, Mexico, as far as earthquakes are concerned. And you know about my warning already that's still in place for California between, San Francisco or San Diego and LA? Somewhere in that area, and I'd have to go back to my past predictions to look, but I just said that, I think, in my October predictions. If you missed my October predictions, be sure to check them out. Going back to the major protests and things that I was talking about with protests, I forgot that this is in my notes, that I saw visions of vehicles plowing through crowds. In vehicles, of course, laced with explosives. That would probably be more likely over in Europe and Middle East. But as far as vehicles plowing through crowds, I could see that actually happening here in the United States and other places as well. The United Kingdom just popped in my mind. And Spirit also said now is the time where we're going to start to see the grid outages that I predicted in the past as well. And we see that happening right now. Israel's cutting off all the power to the Gaza, to the Strip, cutting it all off, cutting off all supplies, cutting all the things off from the innocent people. You should let the innocent people out first, then go in and do all that. But nope, the innocent always have to be put in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's sad. But grid outages. So I would not at all be shocked to see a major attack on Israel's grid coming in the near future. And remember, I played the video clips for you of people fleeing Israel. So hopefully we hold that whole area, the globe, in love and light, put it in a little safe place in the center of your heart so that good things come. Because there's no doubt, friends, that we are in the time of major prophecies. I'll just go over my notes here again. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you about. All the human trafficking busts that are just happening, including a probe into another Disney employee. Go figure. This was a big one. More than 200 people faced charges related to a week-long multi-agency human caught up in traffic investigation in Polk County. Sheriff Grady and Judd said on Thursday. Among the arrests, 2 people were charged with the human trafficking. More than 20 people who were victims of the human trafficking were found. All well, the sheriff's office said. Sometimes we work... Yeah, well, interesting. So there's that one. But let me go to the Disney one, too, because it's kind of interesting. Because we talk about Disney quite often. Unfortunately for Disney, this is from the New York Post. Three Disney workers, a school athlete, director among 219 arrested in the Florida traffic sting. A school athletic director and a father who has a 1-year-old at home alone while he is out having sex is amongst the 219 people arrested in this major caught up in traffic in Florida. The 7-day undercover operation earlier this month led to 44 felonies and 42 misdemeanor charges against dozens of suspects and Disney employees. Once again, go figure, friends. And there's another one here. Hold on. This one was really disturbing too. In Pakistan, police bust an organ traffic ring that took kidneys from hundreds of people. The ring alleged leader, Fawad Makar, is accused of extracting the kidneys from more than 300 people and transplanting them into his rich clients. This is in Pakistan. You wouldn't have thought that. We know that happens in China. I mean, it happens everywhere, friends. It doesn't matter. I remember that was happening in the United States where people were found in the bathtub, with ice. They made a movie out of it. I can't remember what it was called, but remember that? So remember, Spirit told us just in the last channel predictions that there was going to be major busts and people caught up in traffic. But better yet, the saving of hundreds who are caught up in that system. That's where it gets better, when these people get saved and get taken out. Remember my visions of the little ones being taken out as well. How about the bed bug biting in Paris? I've been warned in Paris for a while. I saw things happening around the Eiffel Tower. Potential for, again, attacks. Spirit showing me the vision again that I had a while back of gunmen in a city street bringing havoc. I'm likely believing that's going to be Paris. But don't be surprised if you see that happen somewhere in the United States or other countries as well. But I'm going to stick with Paris because we were talking about Paris and Spirit jumped in with that. So the bed bug epidemic that's happening in Paris. Do you think that that's just sudden, coincidental? There's something behind that sinister as well. There's lots of sinister things, but there's something behind that, which is kind of crazy. Like, get us with bugs. So the next thing you're going to start to see is issues health related that are going to be related to bites from bed bugs in Paris. That's going to be the next big concern. I'm glad I'm not in Paris. That would creep me out. That would just creep me the heck out. I don't want to see one ever, other than the pictures that I've seen of bed bugs. It's creepy. But to me, that feels like somewhat of a insect attack on Paris. Purposely done. That's what it feels like to me. Kind of crazy, friends. We have Friday the 13th coming up. I have a little video I'm going to put out hopefully tomorrow on Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, there's an Illuminati card for Friday the 13th. But the Illuminati cards also show a card with the meteor, the red star, blue star, Kachina, that I did a video on not long ago, a month ago. And that's the date that comet comes, Apophis, Friday the 13th. So that could be why there's a Friday the 13th card in the Illuminati cards. But, there's been tragic big things that have happened on the date Friday the 13th as well. So again, I got a little video that I hope to have done by tomorrow for you, but I have a full list of clients tomorrow. But I want to get it out before Friday the 13th, of course. One of the best movies of the 80s, Friday the 13th. There was a small earthquake in Washington, Seattle, Washington. Gave them a little shake. I did more in Seattle. That's just a little shake as to what's to come in the future, especially along the coast and in the Pacific, outside the coast of Washington and California, according to what Spirit just said. Outdoor festivals. So I warned about a big incident happening in an outdoor festival, and sadly that did play out this weekend in Israel. But Spirit says that we need to be more mindful at future outdoor festivals, especially outdoor festivals, more when we get into 2024 especially, but also nightclubs, bars. I'm going to go more with nightclubs, big nightclubs. It reminds me of what happened in Florida. Was it, where was it in Florida? Miami, Florida, or wherever that was in Florida. I can't remember now. So if it reminds me of that, it would again be a repeat of something like that occurring in a nightclub sometime soon. Hopefully not again in Florida or New York, or hopefully not at all, actually. So Spirit says be mindful when you're out and about, especially in the evening hours when it's night and dark, no matter where you reside in this on our Mother Earth. Also, attacks that are going to happen on hotels. I saw, and we've seen this in the past, I think in Africa actually, where these radicals go into the hotels and take hostages and such. We're going to see that again, unfortunately, play out. And not just in Africa, but other places, probably in the Middle East. So if you're traveling somewhere, be extra cautious. Have an escape plan in case something happens. Keep an eye out. Always be aware. Always be alert. The visions I'm having of these hotel attacks are actually in the early morning hours. Some even in the middle of the afternoon. Unbelievable times we are in. Egypt is now on high alert because of everything that's happening, and they should be. They should be on high alert for their big quake that may hit them in the near future as well. Did you see the video of the Uber driver? I meant to get that together for you, and I couldn't find it. The Uber driver, I saw it on, I guess we say X now. That sounds so weird. I saw it on Twitter, because it's still Twitter in my brain. And it's this Uber driver that was telling a story about this guy that he takes. It's dressed in, he has a card, an ID that's all digital ID. And it's a United Nations ID. And apparently they had a conversation, and this guy says, the UN sent him, and I don't know what city he was in. Maybe New York, but I couldn't catch where this guy was. Somewhere in the United States, obviously, in a big city. Probably New York. And the Uber driver said that the gentleman said that he was sent here with other UN, people, and put up in a hotel and told to stay there and wait until they get the next order. Why are they putting UN people in our hotels in the United States? And what are they waiting for? What are they preparing for? Now, when I saw that video, it made total sense to what I was thinking about these explosions going off in big cities. And of course, now they can blame, the radicals over there in the Middle East, even though it's the globalist elite that's planning it all. Remember, Spirit said this was their way of, attempting to take down the economy globally. And the only way to do that would be attacking multiple places, including, again, New York, especially the New York Stock Exchange. All places that are definitely very vulnerable right now. Very much so. But that whole conversation, that video of this Uber driver showing this, showing the picture of the guy's ID, it was all really creepy to me. And it just kind of brought everything together in my mind. The Tupac case. Remember I kept getting stuff about Tupac, and I thought that there'd be another Tupac-like copycat type thing. And they finally arrested Tupac's killer. How about that? There's one big shocking arrest right there. I feel like I might have missed something here, because I got to keep it short. I have a little bit of a toothache today. Don't know why. Probably because I need to go to the dentist. protests we talked about. There's that protest in Alabama. Remember, Spirit told us that there would be another George Floyd type of event that would happen in the United States. And there's big protest in Alabama. And I feel like that is just making the pot bubble up even more before it boils over. That is not the event Spirit told me that they were telling me about in the past. That's just adding to the pot. So we can hold in the light again that such an event does not occur at all. Covered the large explosions. New York City. Yep, that's pretty much it. I think I pretty much covered it all today. The bedbug pandemic. The rest, yeah, we covered it all today, friends. I didn't put it all in my notes because I was trying to get clips together and getting it all together for you today. And like I said, I got a little bit of a mouth pain going on right now, but I'm going to leave you with that for today. And keep tuned. If you're new here again, you like today's content, don't forget to click that like button. Thank you for hanging out with our tribe, smashing that subscribe. When you hit the bell, when you hit subscribe, make sure you hit the bell and all so that you get notifications. Because sometimes you don't get notifications, which is kind of strange. You're supposed to get notifications, but you know I'm here every Tuesday, regardless, every Tuesday. And when I'm not, I'm here during the week too sometimes. But you gotta subscribe, set your notifications so that you get information. Prayers to the planet Earth from all of us. Remember, take the planet Earth and tuck it into the center of your heart with love and light so that we can shift things and shift directions and make better things come out of this world. Until the next time, beautiful friends, celebrate life, celebrate you. Remember to be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Why? Because you're freaking awesome. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste. And much love.